welcome back. We're in day number 2 of the National Farm Machinery Show in Louisville, Kentucky, and the place is packed. The weather, as we've said, is good. I think people are just so tired of being inside with all the winter weather that they've had cabin fever and they want to break out and be outside, and they're enjoying. Then they come inside to look at the equipment and the different products and things that are on display here, and thinking of spring and getting ready to go to the fields. We're going to talk about that here at the Syngenta booth, about insects first of all, then we're going to get into glyphosate resistant weeds as well on this segment of Agri Talk. We're going to talk with Mark Lawson first of all, and Mark is going to kind of give us a little bit of a overview of what we had last year as far as insect pressures in various parts of the country, and then we're going to focus in on what growers can do to get ready for this year. Mark, thank you for joining us. You're a field agronomist with Syngenta. Kind of give us that overview of what we faced last year with insects.
Last year was a wonderful growing season because we had a tremendous amount of heat units, but what that meant was we had earlier insect pressure than we've seen in a long time. In fact, I think probably the earliest I've ever seen it. It was spotty, of course, as all insect pressures are. There's no way to describe or understand insect distribution. So we had hot spots within fields or within counties or within areas of the state, and then we had areas where they saw none at all. But overall, we saw quite a lot of western bean cutworm damage in northern Indiana. That has continued to increase. In southern Indiana, we had a lot of earworm pressure, and it moved further north than what we typically have seen it. And so there was hardly a field I could go into that I could not find some ear damage from either one of those two pests. And then, of course, we had all the other fun things that go along with that.
Does the previous year insect pressures and previous year weather conditions give us any preview of what we might expect in the current year, or is it just we start all over and conditions will bring about its own set of challenges?
I think in some cases, like with the corn borer, we know they overwinter, so that if you have heavy corn borer pressure one year, there's a good chance you're going to have it the next year. But the western bean cutworms and the earworms and those things, it is largely going to be determined by the environmental conditions in that given year. Yeah, we can say, okay, we've seen western bean cutworm continually get worse as they come in, as they increase the egg mass laying and the survivability. But it's quite frankly, it's kind of a crapshoot. We think we know, and then Mother Nature will prove to us we don't.
I guess one thing a farmer does know, you're going to face some type of insect pressure in any given year. So let's talk about what is available to help them fight that battle, and we're hearing more and more about Agrisure Viptera. Tell us about it.
Agrisure Viptera was released and launched this past year. It's a very exciting development from my standpoint. I've been at this for 40 years, and so this is really something to come along because it is the first new mode of action insect trait control that has been introduced since Syngenta introduced the very first insect control trait, which was BT corn many years ago. And the nice thing about it, it provides the most broad spectrum control and the highest level of control of any product on the market today. And it's providing us with a 9-bushel yield advantage over our 2 leading competitors. So we like that. I look at it, and when I'm talking to my clients, from a standpoint of peace of mind, because this thing works 24 hours a day. It's very fast in its action, so we see almost no damage, even minimal amounts of damage. There's always a little bit, but we can't find that most of the time. So it's out there protecting your crop 24/7. When you're coaching the Little League team or visiting your grandchildren or taking your wife on vacation or taking a nap in the front yard, that insect trait is out there protecting your crop.
Now, what should they know about if they're thinking about for this year? You know, you've got some trial results from last year that you can show them. What do they need to know about using Agrisure Viptera this year?
This year, it's available from either our NK, Golden Harvest, or Garce brands from the Syngenta seed portfolio. We have a broad spectrum of maturity ranges. It's available, and like all of our Agrisure traits, there is no yield drag to be concerned about, so we're comfortable with that. And we do have product available, and they need to be taking a look at it and comparing it to what they've been doing, and get familiar with this level of insect control, because it's higher than anything they've ever seen.
You talk about yield, that's the key. I mean, we know going into this year, tight stocks, the emphasis on we need to produce a big crop. We don't want to be losing to insects that potential yield.
Exactly, and it only takes three kernels in a year to lose a bushel an acre, and that adds up pretty quickly. But the other thing that's particularly important for a lot of your listeners, because they're hog and cattle and dairy farmers, producers, and we're seeing between 70 and 80% reduction in the occurrence of mycotoxins and molds with the Viptera trait over not having that protection. And that is huge, particularly if this past year you had a bin full of corn you couldn't sell or you couldn't feed it.
That is critical. Now, where can growers get more information about AgriSure Viptera?
Well, they can check our website at www.syngenta.com, or they can check with their local retailer or farm channel seed supplier with either Garst, NK, Golden Harvest. Any of those people can supply you with information. You can call or you can check on our website and find out how to contact your local agronomist. We all are listed on there. We have the Dirt on Seeds blog site, of which I'm one of the contributors, and they can also check that out.
All right, so another tool to fight insects.
Exactly, just exactly what we need. Broad spectrum control, 24/7, peace of mind, AgriSure Viptera.
We like peace of mind. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
All right, Mark Lawson. Mark is a field agronomist with Syngenta. All right, now we're going to turn to Criag Abell, technical support rep for Syngenta. Hi, Craig, good to see you again. Let's talk about something that has become more and more of a concern and a topic of discussion. Glyphosate weed resistance. And again, we always set this up by saying, hey, we're not putting down glyphosate, great product, but overuse or overdependence can lead to problems, and we've seen some of those problems.
Yeah, well, first of all, good morning. And yeah, you're exactly right. As we look at glyphosate, it's fantastic technology and still viable today. It's going to be a part of our weed management system as we look to the future, but we've relied too heavily on the technology, and it worked really too well for us. We got away from residual herbicides, and then we've got to a weed management program in a lot of cases where we're using a product that has a single site, single mode of action. So we've selected for a pretty mean species of water hemp that's going to cause us trouble from this point forward.
Is that the key one when we're looking at what weeds seem to be showing the resistance and what weeds may, as we look to the future, what else should we be looking for?
Well, water hemp is the big one, and we have that documented, and it's not just in southern Illinois. You know, we've documented it in central Illinois, McLean County, Champaign County, so it's not just a southern Illinois thing. And probably the other big one we have to face is mare's tail. That's one that causes some problems in a burn down situation early in the spring. And the one that's most recently came on our radar is giant ragweed. Brian Young at Southern Illinois University has documented glyphosate-resistant giant ragweed, so that's something else we're going to have to look to manage in the future.
Okay, how do we manage it?
Well, it gets back to just basic agronomics. We have to get back to using foundation herbicides at full labeled rates. So a product like Prefix, 2 pints to the acre, will give you very good residual control. And then we have to make timely post applications. With glyphosate, we had a large window to make our post applications. We have to manage and we have to spray 4-inch tall weeds when we come back and make the post application. And then if we can use multiple modes of action at that point as well, that will help. And probably really as we start this process, we need to make sure we have a clean field at planting time. You know, we back up a little bit, that's going to be really important as well too.
I know we've talked about this with you and others at Syngenta before about the importance of that crop, that plant getting off to a good start, because what you lose at the front end, you may not be able to regain during the course of the growing season.
Yeah, and you can quote some work that was done by Clarence Swanton. So every time you have competition early in the season, that you have an irreversible effect on that crop, whether it be a corn plant or a soybean plant. And for example, with soybeans, for every inch of weed growth that you have competing with a soybean plant, that costs you 7/10 of a bushel to the acre. And you know, think about we spray 6 to 8, 10-inch tall weeds. Soybeans are $14 an acre. That makes a soil residual herbicide look very, very effective or very economical.
Sure does. Now I know at Syngenta you have really worked to raise awareness of the resistance issue. In fact, you even have the Resistance Fighter of the Year program.
Yeah, we have really a website. We start with resistancefighter.com, and then we did come up with the Resistance Fighter of the Year to recognize people that have been proactive and taken measures not to let resistant weeds creep in, and then use alternative products instead of relying on glyphosate to manage these weeds. Yeah, this year I believe our winner is from Iowa this year that won the Resistance Fighter of the Year award.
So when you're talking with farmers, what do you really want to stress to them and emphasize to them about the making them aware of glyphosate-resistant weed?
Well, it obviously is proactive management. You know, taking a stance to wait and see what happens, that's not going to be a good solution. I spent the whole month of September, all I did last year was look at fields that had been sprayed 2 or 3 times with glyphosate, and we had a nice lush green growth. So it's something that's not going to go away. And as we look at planting, you know, as we have a clean field at planting time is going to be essential. Using a residual herbicide like Prefix is going to be essential. And then as we plan those post-applications, making timely applications, that is one way to manage this. And you know, we're going to get into a point where we're going to talk about mechanical weed control. As I grew up on a farm, that was my primary purpose from, I don't know, the time I could walk till I was 12 or 14 years old. But we're going to go back, and mechanical weed control will be a part of our weed management in the future.
Craig, thanks a lot. Appreciate you being with us.
Thank you very much.
That's Criag Abell, Technical Support Rep for Syngenta. And again, that's a big issue, glyphosate-resistant weeds. All right, we will take a break. When we come back, something we've talked a lot about with the folks at Syngenta, their very successful and very important Weeding Out Hunger campaign. That's next on AgriTalk.